Welcome, children, to the Kingsway podcast. Kidding, no, that's not the intro.
Welcome back to the Kingsway podcast.
Welcome.
So glad you're here.
We are very glad.
Yeah, had a couple pretty intense episodes.
Yeah.
Last 2 weeks.
We last two episodes were go to counseling, and then something that felt like a counseling session about conflict and or failure and curiosity and all that kind of stuff. And so what we've both learned, and a lot of people we know who've gone to counseling has learned, is that an hour of counseling or however long it is feels like a full day's work, and you are tired after
Absolutely.
it. So we put in 2 full days work emotionally in the last 2 episodes. So we're going to kind of keep it a little chill.
Yeah, we're chilling
A
out.
little
I
easy.
mean, we're going to go seasonal. How about that?
Yeah, both seasonal and chill.
So I
Seasonal.
went to my favorite place, Silver City, this last Sunday.
Is that sarcasm?
Yeah, that was absolute sarcasm. If you did not read into that, if you're watching YouTube, you know it. But
It's let me say this. As a married person with no kids, it's great. I have no issues. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, well, this was especially I think my wife's quote was, "Some memories are good memories, and some memories are just memories." This is not the first. So there was a ton of people there, and I don't know if you've ever had to tell a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, or a 6-year-old over and over and over again that we cannot do the thing that they thought they were going to get to do. But that's basically what it was. He showed up and the park was just so full, and it was all just like, I want to do this. We're like, yeah, we can't do that today. It's an hour and a half wait. Yeah, we can't do that today. It's too many people, and it just felt like everything. They're like, so you brought us to this fun place, and we can't do anything.
You get to look at other people having fun. Isn't that what you do on YouTube all day?
And so it was just not and then it was just hotter, so we were sweating in line. And I say all that to say though that the leaves and like the trees were gorgeous driving out there, like driving up through the Ozarks.
This is the perfect time in Missouri where all the trees are between the yellowy green to yellowy brown to red and orange and
absolutely.
All those.
And it really did have like, you're waiting in line, but I'm looking around like this is gorgeous. Like there's just thousands of pumpkins, a lot of really happy, fun things, and then it just looked really pretty. And I will say it literally felt magical at times.
Yeah,
it did. The experience itself was not magical, but the environment was really, really cool. They just have it really done up. And it made me think about nostalgia. It made me think about things that I love around this time of the year. And for whatever reason, obviously Halloween costumes, some of that attaches, but Harry Potter is what comes to my mind. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy as I cannot help but come back to the thought of like, as much as Lion Witch in the Wardrobe was just a nostalgic thing that I grew up with, I think Harry Potter has kind of captured our family in that way. My kids love to watch the movies, and we talk about them constantly. And it's my wife just recently went to New York, and she went to the Harry Potter store. She brought each of our kids back these little stuffed owls and characters from the movies. And it sparks so many conversations because good and evil is talked about in like really healthy ways. It's just been really fun. And we recently, one of the main characters passed away.
Robbie Coltrane.
Hagrid the giant, half giant. If you know the books, because they never explain it in the movies, but they do in the books, which is maybe a spoiler alert for anybody that's watching. But I mean, Ryan, when you think about fall, what do you think of nostalgia-wise? Is there anything that pops into your mind? Like,
I wouldn't have thought about Harry Potter nostalgia-wise for a long time, but and if you're like, man, you guys talk about Harry Potter a lot, haven't you talked about it before? Well, yeah, that was episode 93.
Yep.
Now look at the synchronicity, or a better word to describe what I'm trying to talk about than at this, where last year we did an episode about Harry Potter because it was getting close to Halloween, just like this year.
Whoop.
And then we did 3 interviews with Blessed to Bless people, which are all linked on episode 124, which we just fixed on YouTube. I'm so sorry. There's an extra 15 minutes of that.
Wow.
My mom commented and said, I made it through your podcast. It was hard to get through the echo, but I made it. And it was 57 minutes.
Oh,
and it was
my
supposed to
gosh.
be 38 minutes.
Wow.
And it's because something messed up with how we cut the video and the audio. And so you heard the whole video worth of audio. And at the beginning, the last 40 minutes of the video is audio. So it wasn't an echo. It was 20 minutes delayed or something like that. Anyway, so sorry about that. We fixed it. I think it was fine on Spotify and everywhere else. But that's like where we've put it, the same place this year.
Yeah.
But this year we're also taking a break from the counseling, whatever stuff, and just taking it easy.
Yeah, and
but
I think it's good.
When I think about fall, I don't think about Harry Potter nostalgically until 6, 7, whatever years ago. Yeah, like 6 years ago almost. So my wife and I have been married a little under 6 years, and the first time I saw Harry Potter and loved it. I'd seen it 1 or 2 or 3 of the movies earlier, and I'd read one of the books and just didn't get into it as a kid, and that's okay. But I saw it for the first time when we had just gotten married. My wife and I got married first or second week of December 9th. It's around the cusp. I don't know which one it was, but December 9th. And then we got back from our honeymoon like the 16th, and we had quit our jobs and we were starting new jobs and we were in school, but there's no school in late December.
Yeah.
And so we were just sitting around the house, waiting for Christmas to show up and us to visit parents and whatever. And she was like, "Hey, can I put a movie on while I'm cleaning?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay. What movie?" And she's like, "Harry Potter." And I was like, "Ugh, ew." And then she put it on, and I don't know, 7 minutes into the movie, I'm standing with a broom in my hand, leaning against the doorway to the room with that TV, mouth open, and just dead-faced watched all 8 of them over the next 3 days.
Yep.
I could not get enough. I don't know what I was missing before. So it's a more recent fall, winter kind of memory for me, kind of nostalgia for me, but it definitely has grown into being that.
I think it's really fun, not just because of the time period, but I think it's something about the coziness of it. I don't know if it's the British, kind of countryside and like this feeling of like you're going to a cottage with a warm fire and you're going to be around hearths and, these castles and like these cool places. And, but for me, it just has this kind of naturally kind of drawn in type of feel. It's very similar, like how in the summer I like to watch movies that are, set in really pretty places with beaches and doing fun activities and guys, running around and chasing people and just action, But then the more it gets in the winter, the more I want kind of these like deep stories and interactions and
cozy,
these kind of cozy feelings.
Yeah.
The reason why I bring up Harry Potter again, and maybe it is like a break week for us, and we're just trying to have healthy conversations around stuff, but I like engaging with things that I feel like continuously spark healthy conversations and don't leave me feeling embarrassed to use it as a platform to talk about.
Yeah.
There are plenty of shows and things that I watch that sometimes I'm like, gosh, but it's probably as unwise at times to dabble into this content, or maybe this isn't necessarily the best. And if anybody knows me truthfully, I'm not a prude in any way in the sense of like what I will watch, but I do know that I can find good in almost anything I watch. Like I can find good in that. That's fine. But how much junk did I have to sift through? Right? How much stuff did I have to sift through to get there? And the more I watch my kids and the conversations and stuff, just at the very minutia of what the books and the characters are, they're constantly battling to try to be better friends. They're constantly battling to try to listen to adults and learn and be curious. They're constantly trying to be brave and stick up for what's right. They're constantly trying to see evil for what it is and call it out in themselves, in others, and in the world.
Yeah.
And then they're constantly offering grace and forgiveness. And no matter how bad the character's relationship gets, there's always a respect level of value and worth to the very end. And in my mind, it's been really almost a linchpin. I've watched my kids just several times use, kind of scenarios outside of those movies as living examples of what they're supposed to do. And I like that they're modeling it. Like, it's like, yes, that's exactly what you should be, working hard and studying and doing your work and not talking behind your friend's back and having your friend's back when someone else is being mean to, and just the characters win. And then ultimately, I love my son, my oldest son, just keeps saying and talking about like Voldemort doesn't know what love is, and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, that's so sad, and it's like I'm like, oh, he's doesn't like Voldemort. He knows Voldemort's like the main evil dude that's doing it, but he's sad for him because he doesn't know what love is, and like, and he knows that that's why Harry lives, and he knows at the end that's why he's going to be defeated, and just that theme alone at the center of the books. Anyway, it just keeps bringing it up, and I love that they run to that they're excited about that they're going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, as an adult, I feel like it keeps bringing me into this like childish moment of nostalgia, but it also it dives deep.
It's a good story to rally around, and I think that's a good point. This kind of bleeds into our whole story series. So it's kind of in the late 100s, early 110s of our episodes.
Yeah.
Talking about how like story is a thing that can unite us and can all rally us behind a common goal and that kind of stuff. And I remember hearing people talk about how World War II, the late 30s, early 40s, was like one of the most united times in American history. Honestly, most wars do that because they spin a story that says we're the good guys, they're the bad guys, whatever. And war is gruesome, and war is full of like bad stuff, and it's full of dehumanizing, all this stuff. But we were all, from what I've been told, I wasn't there, we, finger quotes, were all unified behind this goal of defeating the Nazis and behind bringing good into the world and whatever. And then you get into the little moments and it's a little messier. But ever since then, we've been slowly splitting apart to where just look at politics in the past 4, 5, 10, whatever years, and how divisive we are over that, and how we have all these different tribes that spin their own stories. And this, again, is just kind of retelling what we talked about in our story series. Harry Potter is one of those stories that if you give it a try, you and everyone else on the planet can get behind it and rally around it and love it. It's one of the few things, like I've even seen in different reels and stuff on TikTok, and I'm not actually on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts where reels go to die. I've seen so many reels of people making fun of like Gen Z and Boomer and whatever, and then millennials in the middle trying to hold them together, and then one person makes fun of Harry Potter and they lose their mind. They're like, why do you like Harry Potter so much? They're like, I don't know. And but it's like, for how funny that is, it's also a little true. If you and it should be true for Christians too, that like Harry Potter is I don't want to go way too far with this statement, but it's a good gospel summary. If you listen to Harry Potter and obey it, even though it isn't really telling you to do anything, it's just giving you examples, just like all of Jesus' parables. It's what stories do. If you listen to Harry Potter and obey it, like you and your family and whatever, you'll look like a Christian. Even it's missing Jesus, but it has a Jesus type, which is like half of the stories in the Old Testament.
That's like
Joseph,
Aslan
like Samson in a really bad and shallow
David
and broken
and
way, David, and like all these other people. They're all good stories because they're types. I don't know how the anti-type thing works, but they're
Anti-hero,
foreshadowing Jesus, and they're like a Jesus-like figure. And so you're learning all the like motions of how to be a Christian, even though it's broken, and then you find the true story in Jesus. But like this Harry Potter story is a good story to rally around and train you to be somebody who loves and looks like Jesus.
Harry is just so much like Jesus in very nonchalant ways. It's very similar to how like, and I'm not going to nerd for just a second, but like Harry's brought into the world by 2 loving parents and then tried to be taken out of the world through violence and can't. The love of a mother and the selfless love of a mother is the only thing that protects him. So there's that. His specialty with his wand is disarming his enemies. It's not extracting justice. It's not causing them pain. It's literally his most powerful spell is to disarm the enemy.
Yeah.
And I love that. And it's like his calling card. Like it's the spell at the end of the books that they're like, don't do that anymore because people know when you do that, that's you. Because no one else does this. Where in the middle of a fight, when they're trying to kill you, you're just trying to disarm the enemy.
Yeah.
And that's like his constant spell throughout all of the books. Harry never thinks about himself. He is constantly thinking about everyone else. He's constantly thinking about his friends first, constantly trying to put their needs ahead of his own. so much so that it constantly gets him in trouble because he's going off on his own, doing his own thing, forgetting that he needs people because he's so selfless in his care. Now, some of you could be like, it's a little overboard, but it's just true of who he is. He's never selfish.
Again, this is like almost like a 7 book long parable. So it's not word for word, action for action, thought for thought Jesus. But
no, and it's more just like,
and none of us are saying that he's a good replacement, that you should run to him first instead of
I think it's just more of just if I'm telling a parable and I use Harry Potter terms, I think it would work really, really well. And it's more of like a parable is put into the context historically and culturally to have the greatest impact. You can take these parables, maybe not biblically accurately, and pull them directly into Harry Potter, but you absolutely could do it with deep impact and historical congruency to where we're at. So if I tell a story about, a wizard that's given 10 times the power, and then one that's given 5, and then one that's given 1, and one wizard goes off and does incredible things, and then, blesses the world and does all this stuff. One does 5, does great things, and the one is scared to do something wrong and just sits at his house and never does anything. Which wizard did the right? Like you can pull those things in and make these parables something that would be intense. But I think the culmination of why the character of Harry does such a good job is the ending of the book, which is so poorly done in the movies. But in the book, there's this scene where Harry realizes that what is in him needs to be destroyed, and that he is going to have to selflessly let the enemy kill him in order for this evil to be destroyed. And so it's that Garden of Gethsemane moment where Jesus is going like, is there any other way? And Gandalf and all the words of all these people that have led Harry to this point basically are saying no. And he has this stone that allows him to be with these other people, his parents, Sirius Black, and they're all encouraging him to do this thing, but they can't make the choice for him. It has to be his choice. Yeah. So Voldemort's not going to take his life. Harry's going to give it. He's going to selflessly offer it. And and the love that saved him at the very beginning from his mom is going to be the thing that saves the world. And it is that cross moment. Like, it is finished. Yeah. I've done it. I've saved my friends. I've saved the whole thing. And he does it willingly. And then the coolest part about it, of course, is that he comes back. And he's supposed to be dead and everybody's celebrating. And then it's just like, nope, he's still here. And those are the moments that I think when you watch it, you realize it's attaching itself, like we said, to stories. It's attaching itself to something that's a larger narrative outside of this story. All of a sudden, these books and these movies, you realize that maybe there's more to them than just a parable, right? Maybe it's attaching itself to something that you're like, oh, this is actually big picture stuff. Like, this is real, like real stuff, not Harry Potter real. Like Jesus real. Like, this is attaching itself to really big stuff.
And that's why the story is so good, is because we believe as Christians that the ultimate truth is found in Jesus, and the story of Jesus is found in God himself and how God has worked in the world and that kind of stuff. And the reason Harry Potter's so good is because it attaches itself to that story.
I'm just watching my kids attach, like Harry Potter's going to let himself be killed just like Jesus. And I'm like, yes. That's exactly what he's doing. And guess what? We're called to do the same thing, to love that well. We're called to live a life like Harry for his friends, for his family, for Jesus. We're called to be sacrificial, to care enough to say, I'll lay my life down selflessly. I will not, pursue my own needs, be greedy, be angry, be malicious. I will be kind and generous, and I will be gentle when I can. I'll be patient and selfless. I mean, it really just, if you went down the fruits of the Spirit and you tracked the movies or the books, you would watch Harry just constantly learning the fruits of the Spirit.
Display, but also grow.
Yeah, constantly learn and display the fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah.
And anytime any of the, the sinful nature shows up, it's either completely confronted, he knows it's wrong, he feels guilty about it, or his friends are challenging him to not be that way.
One of the reasons we wanted to bring this up too is you can see this story saturating its listeners and whatever so deeply in some Christ-adjacent love, some Christ-style love, that even this reunion special came out this past winter. And what you watch from all of the actors who were a part of it for so long, that's so much time to grow to hate each other, to think each other are annoying, whatever.
Pull behind the curtain and see if it's real.
They actually whatever. And they didn't.
No.
This story, like a lot of them were kids, but some of them weren't, like Alan Rickman and Robbie Coltrane and other people who passed away, the first Dumbledore, whoever that was.
Mm-hmm.
But especially the ones who were kids grew up being trained in love by being actors in Harry Potter.
They all are just that
lovely
special. That's special. If you haven't watched it, it's on HBO, but I'm pretty sure you can purchase it as well. It was one of the, and it really was kind of the main reason I wanted to talk, because that came out since that last time we talked about it. And and it's just like a hour and a half special that walks through kind of the behind the scenes of the actors being chosen in each movie. And it was so cool to see, Harry, Hermione, and Ron, these three characters go from basically like 10 years old to 20 somethings, and through the movies, and they love each other. I mean, they really do deeply care about each other. And every actor and actress that played a role, I mean, and I know they're trying to, talk it up, but there was just no sugarcoating it. They knew they were part of something special. They knew they were part of something cool. And the quality of the people is just incredible. I found it to be almost like a bonus empowering to the story to know that not only are these characters portraying love and care and loyalty on screen, but you see that they're deeply, they know the children's names, they know their wives and husbands' names, they interact, they talk about how they've been there for life events, both good and bad, and how they went through hard things and good things, and they fought to stay not just accurate in the roles they were playing, but like close friends. And I think that's what makes the movies work specifically, is that there's genuine chemistry and genuine love between all the actors and actresses, which is, I'm not saying it's completely rare to Harry Potter, but I'm saying that is not always the case with some of these epic stories. So it makes it feel all the more real and all the more realistic to see that on stage and or on the screen and then behind the scenes. I think for me, Ryan, the reason why I think this conversation is worth it is because it's not because I think Harry Potter is like, oh, Harry Potter. I am a nerd in that way. I think it's more that the longer I go, the more I realize that those types of experiences where someone could experience kind of what I would call kingdom things, where it's Christ's kingdom, like they're getting a taste. Why does this work so well? Why does this feel so right? Why does this just have this it factor that seems to just connect when you watch it? And the more I watch and listen to media, I can just tell there's almost like this starvation when people watch and listen to stuff, that they're looking for certain things that they don't even know. It's like almost like subconscious. Like you want the ending to be a certain way. You want the characters to act a certain way. You're hoping that they're righteous and good and that they make the right choices. And it's either polarizing when they make the wrong one and you're like, oh, why would you do that?
Well, it's like when they make the right choice, it feels right. Mm-hmm. It feels at peace and it feels good. When they make the wrong choice, and this is where like most HBO content and that kind of stuff comes from. When they make the wrong choice, you get this adrenaline because you feel like the conflict's still going.
Yep.
And that's why like horror movies, like more thriller I'm talking about, like there are constant hours of adrenaline of like feeling like you want to avoid the bad stuff, but liking the adrenaline from the bad stuff.
Absolutely.
and so like that's how these are set apart, like you were talking about. Maybe you're looking for a really good moment in a show or a movie or whatever, and you have to drudge through knee-high levels of putridity. That isn't a word, but you know what I mean.
Well, and I think that, specifically content when like you're hanging out with a group of people, like either as adults or as kids, and maybe adults, Harry Potter's a little too much. Like the first movie is obviously made for kids, and so it's always hard to watch that.
But just press on; it's worth it.
It is, and I really think if you had grandkids or you have nieces and nephews, or you have like, for me, like kids that are around 8, 9, 10, those first 2-3 movies are so fun. They're adventurous. They're wholesome. There's things that the conversations that you can have out of those are good. You can put them on in the background, and I don't think anybody would have any issues. It's one of those things that I feel like if you haven't tapped into it and you have kids around that age, specifically, this holiday season just may be the time that you're like, hey, we're starting a new tradition. We're going to talk about these. We're going to look at these. We're going to watch these. And then if you've watched them before, I think it's just the connections are so easy and fun, and they're just a natural bridge to so many good conversations. I'm not saying that put all your eggs in one basket in the Harry Potter basket.
Yeah.
It's more just like if you can find content like that is attractive and fun, but also has deep connections to things that matter. I think that's to lean into at times and utilize that type of stuff. I'll just say in closing, I mean, truthfully, this has been just a fun conversation, and I hope it just sparks interest and curiosity.
And we got more stuff coming up after this that's going to be deep and good. And
I'm really excited about Blessed to Bless. This year's going to be really fun. Good conversations again, and a lot of things that are in the works. I know you have some worship conversations coming up with a professor that I'm really stoked about too. There's just God is good, and there's some fun stuff that I love that we have a platform to be able to do this and continue to have the conversations. But in closing, all I'll say is that whether you were born in 1955 or 1985, or whether you were born in the 2000s, I think all of us have certain formative experiences, certain formative memories with interactions with important characters, whether it be Bonanza and a Little House on the Prairie from early on, whether it's from my generation as more like Mr. Rogers and Reading Rainbow, and just some of the formative movies that you watched. For me, it was like Indiana Jones and
The Punisher.
Yeah. I mean, and then, and I can just tell you that for my kids, I think Harry Potter is going to be the formative one.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that because there are more wholesome things in that than some of the things that I grew up formatively, other than the focus on the family, Buttercream Gang. And if you know, you know. And if you know, I need a thumbs up and a comment. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. I don't think you're wrong about that at all, that there's no better time than now to start picking your heroes. I know so many people who grew up with Superman, and that's why I want to be a cop, which is isn't a 1-to-1, but it's I like the bravery I see in him, and the courage and the valor and the
invincibility.
The invincibility. I want some of that, but wanting to be like that person's personality. I was reading I taught at high school camp a few months after I got here, so summer of 21 in Colorado, and I read the entire end of this book called Delighting in the Trinity. And I may have spoken this on here before, but this fits perfectly here. Talking about how our view of God determines what we think godliness is. It is the same conversation we're having right now, where the dude was talking about if your God is Thor of Asgard, the beer-sloshing, oversexed war god, then that's what godliness is. So do that, but please don't do that.
Yeah.
And so he's going down all these types of who you think God might be. And he said, if you think God is a monad, a single person, and not the Trinity, if when you picture God, you see him as a bookkeeping, single dude, solitary, never lived with anybody else, always just waiting for you to mess up. If that's your view of God, then that's what godliness looks like. You need to be a rule keeper around you or whatever, and you need to be alone because you're higher and better than, and that's what godliness looks like. And I think if you take your cues of godliness from Harry Potter, maybe not the magic stuff, but the character stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's the most important part. The depth of the characters is from their own personal character within the story, their own convictions, their own priorities, all that kind of stuff. If you take your picture of godliness from Harry Potter, you'll be pretty close. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the point, that we need to constantly check our heroes, and by default check God, who we think God is, against Scripture, against what we know to be true from those things and how he's revealed himself. And in the same way, we need to check our own heroes, who we value, who we prioritize, even fictional, who we want to be like. So I think Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird stands in front of the jail at night to keep a crowd of rioters from wanting to kill an innocent black man in jail for a crime that he did not commit, but they'd love to pin on him. And I think like if I can be like that guy, if I can pick that guy as my hero, as my view of godliness, then I'm doing pretty good. I look pretty Christian right there.
Absolutely.
I look like who I want to be.
And I think that's the beauty of these stories is they're not one-dimensional. They're not just about the characters being perfect. There is a beautiful display of what it means to be a deep friend throughout these, where the conflict between Ron and Hermione and Harry is sometimes at a froth level where you can tell they're not all getting along, but they learn how to work through it and forgive and figure it out. You can tell the professors aren't just teaching knowledge, but they're deeply teaching skills.
And McGonagall by the end,
wisdom and love. Yes, and then you have deep devotions of selfless love that Snape displays and always cares about.
Yeah,
and you have deep displays of just bravery.
Yeah,
and I'm encouraged. These themes and these characters and the way they deal with conflict and growth, and they apologize when they make mistakes, and then they ask for faithfulness and trust when they're doing something hard. It really just, it's such a beautiful way of being able to tap into something that I think can create great heroes for your kids, for yourself. And it's honestly just something that I think is going to be hopefully timeless. These characters aren't going to go away. Maybe it'll be different, or maybe it'll be remade in our lifetime. I can never see
I sure hope not.
I sure hope not.
They're
but
so
maybe.
good.
But
Please
maybe.
don't.
But anyway, we want to drop in, have a few minutes to talk about this. Encourage you to figure out what you're going to be watching with your family or your friends this holiday season. I think this is kind of the downhill slide into Christmas, right? It's crazy. It's a month till Thanksgiving, then it's a month till Christmas. So it's only 60-some days away, which is just crazy.
That's too close.
It is.
I got to start planning for Christmas.
So, as you're thinking about what to put on or thinking about some things that maybe you and your family want to watch, I think giving it a shot, learning, doing your own research could become something that you enjoy and your family does too. So I hope today has been encouraging you to find good heroes, be a little curious, see the content as something that can be uplifting and create godly conversations. And I wanted to encourage that around this time of Halloween. Sometimes I think you're looking for something to watch, and I think this would be a fun one to kind of start the journey. So, hey, if this content's something that you want to share, we always appreciate that, or hit the like button or leave us a review. It always helps us know if you leave a comment or send us an email to the content that we like or things that you've been seeing. I know the counseling stuff was super intense, and we've had some feedback. Always welcome to give more and give us some direction for things to talk about in the future. So anything else to add, Ryan?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, have a great and glorious day in the Lord. We'll see you guys later.
See ya.